Hi, I'm Iris Johnston, and welcome to Page to Screen, where we explore the art and craft of screenwriting and filmmaking. This show is a production of the Tennessee Screenwriting Association. For more information about the TSA, visit us online at www.tenscreen.com or follow us on Facebook. I'd like to thank our members who turned out in our studio audience tonight. Yay! Thank you. And to our crew who's making this possible. Joining us tonight on Page to Screen is writer, actor, author, and fellow Tennessean,
Yes.
Bob Saenz.
Hi.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for joining us. You've had some great success in both television and film as a storyteller. So if you could just kind of tell us your story, the Bob Saenz story.
When I was a young man, I wanted to be an actor. It was my dream from about the time I was 10 years old. And I did it, I did any kind of acting that I could. You name it, I was trying to do it. And from the time I was about 15, I was getting paid to do stage work. And when I was about 22, I was doing a year-long run in a musical called The Fantastics in San Francisco, and I met my wife, or who was going to be my wife, and I thought, $800 a month or a family, and you can't be an actor, and so I quit. So I stopped, and I went into the wholesale furniture business, and I was very successful. And when I turned about 40, I saw that business was changing dramatically, and that it was going to be non-existent in probably 10 years, the way it was structured. Mm-hmm. And so I went to my wife and I said, I think I want to try and be an actor again. And when I picked her up off the floor, she said, we got money and you really want to do it. I have a great job, and she had a great job. Take a couple of years and see what happens. And nice. God was great. And I got a line in a movie called Angels in the Outfield, and it was try throwing it over the plate. And I got my SAG card. I've been in SAG for 30 years, and started acting and was pretty. The definition of successful is a little weird for actors. Mm-hmm. I worked a lot, but it was all small little stuff, and no, I was never going to have a successful big career making a great living as an actor. I mean, I have a range of about like this, right. And you get me in there and I can knock it out of the park, but I'm not one of those guys that can do anything. So I got a recurring character role on a series called Nash Bridges with Don Johnson and Cheech Marin, and I played a cop. And every week we would get the scripts, and I would, go through it and look to see where my line was. And there was a real famous episode where my entire line for that week was, "Yeah." And
did you get paid the same?
I got paid the same no matter what. And I looked at those scripts and I thought, I could do this. So I wrote an episode of Nash Bridges. And I found out that so did the dolly grip and the guy who waters the plants, and everybody else on that set was writing their own scripts.
You weren't the first.
No, you're never the first. So Carlton Cuse was the showrunner, and we got to know each other. I was there 6 years, and about year 4, I decided to talk to him, tell him I had a script, and he said, "Okay, all right, pitch me the script," and I did. And he went, "Hey, that's a pretty good idea." And he said, "All right, I'll read it." So it took a month or two before he came back and said, "Hey, I read your script. We can't use it, obviously, because here's the secret. They have WGA writers and a writer's room, and they don't take outside scripts like everybody else, okay?" But he said, "You know what? You have some talent. You should keep doing it." And so I did.
And what was the next thing you
wrote? I wrote a script called The Vampire State Building. And it was based on something my son had said, mishearing the Empire State Building. Right. And don't take this as something that would happen for everybody, but through an absolute miracle, which we don't have time to tell the whole story, it got, in its first draft version, got optioned by Polygram Pictures in LA through Warner Brothers, and was going to get made, and my ego got out of control, and I thought, I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to be a great screenwriter, and everything, this is so easy. And then Polygram got sold to Universal for their music catalog, and they dropped their entire film slate, and my career was over.
Whoa.
Okay.
That's a lot, yeah.
Okay, and it was gone. It was gone. Now, they hadn't made the movie, so all I got was the option money, and so that was fine. We'll talk about Vampire State Building later,
yeah.
But I talked to a producer who told me, we were talking about writing, and he heard my sob story, and we were talking about writing, and he said, you should write a calling card script. And I said, what's a calling card script? And he said, it's a script that's just you, something that you want to write that may never get made, but will attract people to your writing.
We're about to talk a lot about
extracurricular activities.
That, and also your
My
book that you wrote, which
Okay.
is just fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited.
So anyway, I wrote extracurricular activities for my second script, and it opened every door to Hollywood. I never expected it to get made. I never expected it to become the cult film it's become. I never expected anything from it other than maybe some people will like it. And a mere 18 years later, it got made into a movie. Okay? It got.
Right. And you're talking about a spec script right now.
Yes,
Just
it's a spec
define
script.
what that is in case somebody
A spec
doesn't know.
script is a script that you write for yourself. Nobody paid you to write it. It's your own idea.
Yeah.
It's all original.
all
It's
original.
nobody else's IP. It's nobody else's anything. It's your own script.
Okay, and you had a premise that is incredibly unique.
That's why I did it. But most people wouldn't make the movie because it was such a strange, kind of off the wall, kind of scary
Yeah,
premise.
yeah.
And so what happened with it is it got optioned 8 times over those 18 years by 8 different entities, including Universal, including a bunch of giant production companies, including a couple of good directors, and it opened every door in Hollywood for me. A woman who was producing Hallmark Christmas movies read extracurricular activities and wanted to meet with me about rewriting a Hallmark movie. And extracurricular activities is like the anti-Hallmark
It
movie.
absolutely is.
And so we talked, and she said, what can you do? And I said, I think I can do this with the movie. And it ended up being my first produced movie, which is called Help for the Holidays with Summer Glau. And it ended up being the 7th highest rated Hallmark movie of all time. And it opened a lot of doors for me writing other movies for Hallmark.
How do you know if you have a good premise? If you could just work through this. This is in your book too, right?
You know, it has to do with actually being honest with yourself about who's the audience for this. Mm-hmm. Who do you think would want to watch this movie? And you have to ask yourself that question every time you come up with a premise. And everybody is not an answer because
Right.
everybody doesn't like every movie. Who's my audience? Like I said in here, I read a script one time that was about scrapbooking. It was a horrendous script, and nobody's going to want to watch that movie.
Right.
And why that person wrote that script, because they love scrapbooking, but it's not a movie.
Right.
A premise has to lead to a good story.
Right.
Producers don't buy anything but story, no matter what anybody else tells you, and no matter what anybody else says about spec scripts. Producers are looking for story.
Right. So how do you poke holes in your own premise? How do you just think?
You look around at what kind of movies are being made and what kind of movies. You know, you look at. I got a script not too long ago to read that was a DEA agent whose wife and daughter get killed, and he goes on a rampage to. I mean, that's a Steven Seagal movie in the '80s. They don't make those anymore. Mm-hmm. So why would you do a premise that's not done anymore?
Okay.
Why would you do a premise that's a cop thing that you can watch Law and Order and see 4 episodes like that over the 20 years of Law and Order?
So as a spec script
Yeah,
writer, you're
you're looking for a premise
new.
that's new and different. I'll give away a premise. I'll give you away a
Yes,
premise.
please.
This is my premise, and don't steal it. But this is my premise of something I'm working on right now. A guy is an identity thief, and he's very careful about how he does it. And he does all of his homework, and he really studies the people he's going to steal from, the identities of, so he can take the best advantage and take the most money from them before they realize it. And he picks a guy and does a job on him, but not realizing that this guy is a notorious serial killer. And what happens from there, I know, but I'm not telling you guys.
Okay, but that
Yeah.
is a good premise.
And that's a good premise.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And so those are the kinds of things that you look around at all the things you see. You read newspapers, you look at the news, you talk to people. In the book I talk about, I had a friend of mine whose wife did a 23andMe. And during the 23andMe, she found out she had a brother she didn't know about. Her father was extracurricular activities. And so she had a brother she didn't know about. And they were having a family reunion not long for that. And they invited him to it. And he ended up being this terrific, wonderful guy. And he was telling me how that they had found this new brother and they were all excited about it. And my mind, while he's telling me the story, is going, wow, what if he was a serial killer? What if he was a sociopath? What if he was all this stuff? And there's a movie there. And the thing is you can look at day-to-day stuff and start saying, what if, what if, what if, what if? And seriously find really interesting things.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the same thing everybody else has done thinking, I'm going to do it better, because
Right.
you're not. You need to do the same thing everybody else has done and turn it on its head.
What is your sense of what producers might be interested in right now looking at spec
I can
scripts?
tell you what they're interested
I want to hear.
in. Low budget.
Okay.
1 million to 5 million, and some under $1 million. I just got hired to write a movie for a production company. I wrote a movie for them last year. The budget is half of what it was last year because people don't have money right now. The economy has affected everybody. And the big studios, forget the big studios. Big budget movies nobody's buying them.
Okay.
So you can do a lot. Extracurricular Activity was a $2.7 million movie, and we blew up cars and we did all kinds of stuff. So we had big high school scenes with basketball games and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you can do a lot, but you have to just be careful about how you do it. You have to be able to write to budget. That's a whole different story.
What can screenwriters do to make things easier on the reader?
Would you like my definition of what a screenwriter does?
Yes, I do.
Everything that all the people who are listed at the end of the movie don't do.
Wait, say that again. The screenwriter does.
Everything that all the other crew members and everybody doesn't do.
That's right.
You tell the story. They don't do that. You don't design the costumes. You don't do any of those other things.
Yeah.
If you're doing the costumes and over-describing your characters and over-describing the room they're in and all that, because none of that matters because they're going to do what they want anyway.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not only are you wasting their reading time, you're also wasting your story space because you only have 110 pages to tell your story. And if you're using those pages to tell stuff that isn't story, then you have less room to tell the complete story you would like to tell.
That sounds totally right and harder to do than you're making it sound.
It's very hard to do, but the word is brevity.
I saw that word a lot
Yes.
in your book.
And if you could read, and there are examples of my scripts in them, and you can see how lean and mean they are. And readers love that. They want to be able to read your script in an hour. And they can do that if you're not clogging it up with a bunch of stuff that's not story.
Okay, so brevity and
you can on your action blocks, and I guess we're going to talk about that later.
And let's say that what I hope I have is a solid premise and a couple of interesting characters.
Okay.
But then what do I do? Or rather, what do you do?
I do synopsises. I do a one-page synopsis.
Yeah. What should a new writer be aware of when they're about to start writing dialogue for their characters?
Write dialogue people would actually say. Don't have people telling each other things that they already know about each other. I read a script one time where a woman looks at another woman and said, "Hey, remember when we were sisters?" I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I know. I don't want anyone to feel bad if they're
No, it's nothing to feel bad about. It's just human beings don't speak grammatically correctly. They speak in fragments, they speak with their hands. Sometimes they don't speak at all. You can have somebody say something and your character can respond with.
Which is great because we are talking the interesting characters that we're about to kind of think about. You have an amazing character you came up with in extracurricular activities, Reagan, right?
Reagan Collins is a sociopathic capitalist. If you don't know what the movie's about, you're going to do a clip?
Yeah. Here,
Okay.
we'll see if you and I can set it up. We've talked about premise, we've talked about structure, writing dialogue, we've talked
Okay.
about a lot of things.
The premise of the movie, quickly, is a young, all of you had a kid in your high school that wore polo shirts and khaki pants and set all of the curves in your classes, and y'all hated him. And he is this at that school, and he's got an after-school job, and instead of working at Yogurt City, he kills parents for the kids at the school.
It is a fun scene. So let's watch it, and we'll see the screenplay going with it.
This is Tim Simons. You'll recognize him. This is Tim Simons from Veep.
Gary and Betty Vaughn were found dead inside their home today.
Hey, turn that
Authorities
up.
believe it may have been a case of accidental poisoning. This is a death cap mushroom. It looks edible, but it's not. Here comes their daughter now. Here come the bodies now.
I just want to help out any way I can. Shit. A B plus?
You missed one. It happens.
Whoops, time for a nervous breakdown.
Just to ease your mind, you still have an A in class.
No, this should be an A. You made a mistake.
I'm happy to discuss it after class.
Once we add solid to the liquid, we'll see combustion. It's green. No chemical traces.
Well, that is some advanced chemistry. Well beyond this class. All right, I'll change it to an A. A plus.
Thank you.
So that's how you get such good grades.
Pointing out a mistake. Can I help you with something?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you could walk me home.
Oh, I would, but...
Fine. I'll walk you. You're different than people think.
I am?
Yeah, well, you seem like Reagan Collins, Mr. Serious guy, all about science and studying and making the world a better place.
But you think I'm not like that.
Oh, you are, definitely, but I think there is another side to you that's fun. Maybe a little twisted, but fun.
Twisted, but fun, huh?
Are you denying it?
No, not necessarily. Oh, this is me. I didn't know what you can say, but I do have a lot of homework to do.
Yeah, I should get home. I can't wait to see what Food Network recipe Heather's butchered this time.
Heather?
She's my stepmom. She's this big-breasted dumbass slut who bosses me around while spending my college money.
Sounds like a pretty common dynamic.
Your parents divorced too?
No, happily married, actually. 20 years. But if you're wondering how to deal with Heather, there are ways.
You mean besides murdering her?
Yeah. Just agree with her. Always. And I mean everything.
You're kidding.
No. She'll love it. Your dad will love it. And you just do whatever you want. Everybody wins.
Okay. I'll try it. Look at that. I'm happy already. Thanks for letting me walk you home.
Wow, great. That was really a fun scene.
That's the first time I've seen it with the script.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, it's kinda
I really
neat.
like it. I've never seen it done like that.
You know, it's amazing what happens when you're on a set and actors are actually saying the words that you wrote, and they're doing it in ways that are better than you ever thought that they could do. That when you envisioned the way the words should be said in your mind, and then it's better.
Yeah.
And you feel really good. Ellie Bamber is Mary Allison, and it's just and Timothy Simons, and it's just so gratifying to get great actors and watch them work. You know, as a writer on set, you get to go be quiet and just watch, and
So you
every
were
once
on
in a while
set for
a little
this,
tear runs down you. Yeah, I'm in it, so.
That's right, you were telling me that.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
gonna watch it again.
Yeah, I'm
so I can
the
find-
weatherman,
Sure.
so we're gonna take questions for Bob.
All right.
Hi, thanks, Bob, for being here. My name's Elvis.
Okay,
I have a question
good.
for you. So I've written like 15 screenplays now, and I've written everything from thriller to dramedy, and I've recently broken into comedy. Now, I can make people cry. I think it's easy. Comedy's hard. I don't care what anybody says. I think comedy is the hardest thing to do. How do you feel about that, and what's your favorite genre to write in?
Whatever I'm interested in at the time. I don't believe in all that stuff about you have to write one genre, that you have a brand. I think your brand is if you're a good writer or not. So you can write what you're interested in, write what you're passionate about. Comedy, the secret to comedy, I think, is to let the story be funny rather than to try and add funny to the story. People make the mistake of saying, now I have to tell a joke, instead of using the story to naturally have the jokes come.
All right, hey Bob. So
Hi.
I'm Sandra. I have two quick questions.
Okay.
One of them, I was just wondering like how many scripts that you've made, and also kind of like a comparison between like how many you've written.
I've got 19 produced movies that are out there where you can see them, and I've written a lot more. I have about a 2-foot stack of spec scripts, and that probably will never see the light of day, but you got to keep writing, and you got to keep, you know, when you come up with good story ideas and you have the time to do it, you sit down, put your butt in the seat, and write. So yeah, good.
Yeah.
Have you got how many do you have?
I have 6 right now that's finished, and then
Good for you.
Yeah, and I'm working on my 7th right now.
Good for you.
Yes,
Good
thank
for you.
I was also wondering, like, how do you stay, like, motivated? Because I know myself, like, sometimes I, like, maybe it's, like, negative self-talk, or, like, I get stuck on a problem in the story. Like, do you have kind of strategies on, like, how to keep yourself just, you know, wanting to write and being excited?
It really doesn't have much to do with wanting to write. It has to do with actually putting your rear end in the seat and writing. If I am stuck, then I sit down in the seat and I write until I'm unstuck. And even if I throw stuff away, you can't fix a problem without actually sitting down to fix it. You can't fix a problem by worrying about it. You can't fix a problem by going out and doing something else. You can think about it, and you can take a walk. But once you get finished with that walk, you got to go to sit down and actually put some words on the page. And you'd be surprised how effective that can be. Okay.
Thanks, Bob. My name's Glenn, and the question I have for you is, I understand that your screenplay of Vampire State Building, you've actually converted that into a novel.
I have.
Now, is that process easy, or
No.
is it hard?
Screenwriting is about brevity. Novels are about, you can say anything you want to do. You can talk about people's thoughts and motivations, something you can't do in a screenplay. So it was hard for me to begin with, because you just have to access a different part of your brain. And so you start thinking as a novelist versus thinking as a screenwriter. You start thinking of, how can I expand on this Whereas in a screenplay, you got 110 pages to tell a story. In a novel, you got 300 of single space. So, and in a screenplay, you got 110 of lots of white space. So it's freeing to a certain extent, but it's also kind of hard not to leave stuff out. And so it took me about 8 or 9 passes through the whole book to keep expanding it as I was going through it again and writing more and finding more things to write about and finding more depth in the characters than I could ever have in a screenplay, and finding more about them and being able to talk to have them be fuller and more layered and all the things that I would like to do in a screenplay but don't have the time to do. So yeah, I loved it. It was really fun.
I want to thank our guest, Bob Saenz, for joining us. And if you'd like to find out more about his book, That's Not the Way It Works, a no-nonsense guide to the craft and business of screenwriting, follow him on Twitter. On behalf of Page to Screen and the Tennessee Screenwriting Association, you have a standing invitation to come back anytime and visit us, Bob.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
We're going to hold you to that.
I live half
We're
an
going to
hour
make you come back. Okay. And to find out more about the Tennessee Screenwriting Association, including our meeting schedule and programs, check us out online at www.tenscreen.com or check out our Facebook page. We'd love to have you as a member if you're not already, or scan the QR code on our screen to find out how to join TSA. We meet online through Zoom every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, except for the last Wednesday of the month when we meet here in the studio. Bob, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Every time I do an interview, they always ask me what's your one biggest bit of advice you can give to any screenwriter, and it's always the same. It's don't give up. You're going to face a lot of rejection. You're going to face a lot of mountains to climb. You're going to face a lot of just junk, and you just have to
Never give up.
Persevere.
I love it. I
That's
think you could write that on your mirror, or you could put it in a card by your computer. Yeah, it's great. Okay, well, I'm Iris Johnston. Thanks for watching Page to Screen, and don't give up and keep on writing. Yay.